She refused to do that for 25 years, then did it twice in 1 week with a smirk. I asked why. She just laughed. That's when I planned the ultimate revenge. They say you can live with someone for 25 years and still not know them. I never believed that until 6 weeks ago. My name is Derek Langford. At 49, I've built what most would call a successful life. Key engineer at a tech firm in Hartford, Connecticut. Homeowner in a quiet suburb. Father to 2 brilliant daughters in college. I've always been the steady one, the rock, principled but not cold, emotional but never weak. For 25 years, I've been the same devoted husband to Shannon that I was when we first married. Shannon is 48, a real estate agent with a gift for making clients feel at ease. When we met, I fell for her gentle demeanor, her quiet confidence. She was never the most physically affectionate person, sometimes even distant in our intimate moments, but I respected her boundaries. We built our life brick by brick. Our home, our careers, raising Camille and Sierra, now both attending the University of Connecticut. From the outside, we were the model of stability. The couple others pointed to and said, "That's what marriage should look like." It was just past 11 on a Tuesday night when I finally asked the question that had been burning in my mind for weeks. The bedroom was dark, except for the soft glow of Shannon's reading lamp. She had just set her book down and turned away from me, curling around her pillow, as she always did. "Can I ask you something?" My voice sounded foreign even to me, too casual for what I was about to say. She murmured, already half drifting towards sleep. "Why the sudden change in the bedroom? The things you've been wanting to try lately. For 20 years, you said you didn't like them, wouldn't even consider them." Her body tensed slightly, but she didn't turn around. "I don't hear you complaining." There was something off in her tone, not quite playful, more like she was buying time. I kept my voice measured, free of accusation. "I'm not complaining. I'm just wondering why now, after 25 years together, you've suddenly changed your mind." She sat up abruptly, pulling the sheets around her. "If you don't like it, we can go back to how things were before." Her defensiveness only confirmed what I already suspected. "You're almost as adventurous as some of my college girlfriends now," I said, the words slipping out before I could stop them. That did it. Shannon exploded, throwing back the covers and storming toward the door. "I don't need this interrogation. I'm sleeping in the guest room." I remained calm, watching her retreat. Just as her hand reached for the doorknob, I spoke. "It's fine. I'll know everything in the morning anyway." She froze. "What did you say?" I looked directly at her back, my voice steady despite the hurricane in my chest. "The private investigator I hired 6 weeks ago. I'm getting his full report tomorrow morning." Shannon went completely still, as if the air had been pulled from her lungs. Then she slammed the door, only to return seconds later, pounding, sobbing, begging me to open it, to talk to her. For the first time in our marriage, I ignored her pleas, not out of hatred, but because I needed the truth more than I needed her comfort. Alone in our bed, I stared at the ceiling, tears silently tracking down my temples into my pillow. The pain was crushing, but beneath it burned something unfamiliar, a righteous anger waiting to be unleashed. Tomorrow would bring answers, but tonight belonged to grief. I woke at 2:47 a.m., though woke implies I'd actually slept. My eyes were raw, my throat tight. The house was silent except for the of the furnace. I moved mechanically, grabbing the gym bag I packed the night before. No note left behind, no texts. What was there to say that wouldn't just be another layer of pretense? The streets were empty as I drove to 24-hour fitness. For nearly 2 hours, I punished myself on weights and treadmills, pushing until my muscles screamed louder than my thoughts. Physical pain was a welcome distraction from the hollow ache in my chest. In the locker room shower, I let hot water pound my shoulders, watching sweat and maybe tears circle the drain. I changed into the fresh clothes I'd packed, slacks and a button-down that I kept wrinkle-free by hanging them in my car overnight. By 6:15, I was sliding into a booth at Lucy's Diner, 3 blocks from my office. The place was just starting to fill with the early morning regulars, mostly blue-collar workers and a few suited executives getting a jump on the day. I'd come here often over the years when I needed to think. The ambient chatter and smell of coffee creating the perfect backdrop for difficult decisions. My phone vibrated against the table. Shannon again. The screen showed 37 missed calls and 22 unread messages since midnight. I turned the phone face down without opening any of them. The waitress appeared with a steaming pot. "Please, and keep it coming." My voice sounded hollow even to myself. After she left, I sent a text to Trina Wallace, my deputy director, and someone who'd become something of a mentor over the past few years. "Need to talk before office hours. At Lucy's if you can make it. Important." Trina replied almost immediately. "Be there in 15. True to her word, she arrived 14 minutes later, her sharp eyes taking in my disheveled appearance before she even sat down. "Jesus, Derek, you look like you've been hit by a truck. What happened?" I gave her the condensed version. Shannon's sudden change in behavior, last night's confrontation, the private investigator I'd hired 6 weeks ago. "So you don't actually have anything concrete yet?" she asked, stirring cream into her coffee. "Meeting him at 8. I checked my watch. "I think I already know what he's going to tell me." Trina nodded slowly. She'd been through her own divorce 3 years earlier, a brutal affair that had nearly broken her. "You know how I found out about Mark's affair?" she asked. I shook my head. "Chlamydia." She said it matter-of-factly. "After 20 years of marriage, I got an STD from my husband. When I confronted him, he actually tried to accuse me first, said I must have cheated." She gave a bitter laugh. Classic projection. He finally admitted it when I showed him the doctor's report. I winced. "I'm sorry. Don't be. Best thing that ever happened to me in the long run." She leaned forward. "Look, Derek, the truth is never pretty, but it's necessary. If Shannon has been unfaithful, the worst part isn't even the sex. It's the disrespect, the looking you in the eye every day and lying." I nodded, feeling something harden inside me. Hope was long gone. Now I was just waiting for confirmation to close this chapter. "You shouldn't go home tonight," Trina said. "Stay at my family's lake house at Cooper Lake. It's empty until Memorial Day. I can text you the door code." "I'll think about it," I said, though I had other plans forming. If this morning's evidence confirmed what I suspected, I wouldn't just retreat. I would counterattack. I paid the bill, thanked Trina, and walked to my car. The sky was brightening now, a clear April morning that felt obscenely beautiful given the circumstances. I programmed the detective's address into my GPS and pulled into morning traffic. As I drove, a single thought kept repeating in my mind like a dark mantra. "If this is the game you've chosen, Shannon, I'll be the one to end it." The detective's office was in a nondescript building downtown, sandwiched between an accountant and a dentist. Frank Reeves was a retired cop with salt and pepper hair and eyes that had seen too much. He didn't waste time with pleasantries. "It's all there," he said, sliding a thick manila envelope across his desk. Nearly 100 pages, photos, transcripts, call logs, text messages, 6 weeks of surveillance. I stared at the envelope but didn't touch it. "Mr. Langford." Reeves leaned forward. "I've been doing this for 20 years. I know what you're feeling. But whatever's in there." He nodded at the package. "It's better to know than to wonder." With leaden fingers, I opened the envelope. The first photo was Shannon entering a vacant house with a for sale sign out front. Nothing incriminating. The second showed her laughing with a man in his early 40s. Athletic build, expensive watch, perfect teeth. Travis McNeil according to the type label, her colleague at Connecticut Premier Properties. By the fifth photo, they were kissing in the driveway of another empty house. They use the vacant properties on her listings, Reeves explained. Perfect cover. They meet 2, sometimes 3 afternoons a week. Sometimes they go to his place in West Hartford when his wife is traveling. She's a pharmaceutical rep, gone most weekdays. I flipped through more photos, each one hammering another nail into the coffin of my marriage. Then came the transcripts. We placed a recording device in her car, Reeves said. Legal in Connecticut for these purposes. I skimmed the pages, catching fragments of conversations that made me feel physically ill. Shannon. He has no idea. He's too trusting. Travis. Ever think about telling him? Shannon. And ruin this? God number. Then a conversation about a swap party Travis had attended before meeting Shannon. Her giggling response made my stomach turn. Well, maybe you can be my physical education teacher now. I sat in my car for 30 minutes after leaving Reeves's office, the folder heavy on the passenger seat beside me. I didn't feel pain anymore, just numbness. The woman I'd loved for 25 years was a stranger. Had she always been? The drive to Yukon took 40 minutes, but I barely registered the journey. Campus was buzzing with spring activity, students lounging on the quad, tossing frisbees, studying under trees. I texted Camille at Student Center. Need to see you and Sierra. Important. They arrived 15 minutes apart. Camille rushing in from her electrical engineering lab, still wearing safety goggles pushed up on her head. Sierra arriving shortly after, her pre-med textbooks clutched to her chest. My daughters. The only true thing in my life now. Dad, you look terrible, Camille said immediately. Her directness so like my own. What's wrong? I tried to speak, but the words wouldn't come. Instead, I reached out and took their hands in mine. And then, after weeks of controlled restraint, I broke. The tears came without warning, silent but unstoppable. My daughters exchanged alarmed looks before enveloping me in a protective huddle. After a few minutes, I managed to pull myself together, wiping my eyes with a napkin Sierra handed me. I'm sorry, I said. I didn't mean to fall apart like that. Dad, you're scaring us, Sierra said, her voice small. Just tell us what's happening. I took a deep breath. Your mother is having an affair with someone from her office, a man named Travis McNeil. Camille's face hardened. Are you sure? In answer, I slid a single photo across the table, the most innocuous one I could find that still proved my point. Shannon and Travis kissing by a sold sign. Camille stared at it wordlessly. Sierra began to cry. I have everything, I continued, my voice steady now. Photos, recordings, text messages. I won't show you the rest. You shouldn't see it. I wish I hadn't had to. We don't need to see it, Camille said firmly. I believe you. Sierra looked up through tears. Are you going to divorce Mom? The direct question hit me like a physical blow. I don't see any other option. I still love your mother. My voice caught, but not the person who could do this. I love the woman I thought she was, the one who respected me. Sierra's phone buzzed. Shannon's face appeared on the screen. Camille snatched it before Sierra could answer and put it to her ear. If you need someone to talk to, call Travis, she said coldly, then hung up. I reached across the table and took both their hands again. No matter what your mother has done, she's still your mother. Don't hate her, but don't ignore this either. Respect her, but don't let her turn you into silent accomplices like I was. Sierra nodded, tears streaming down her face. Camille squeezed my hand so hard it hurt. "What happens now?" Sierra asked. "Now," I said, feeling a strange calm settle over me. "We start over." I left my daughters with promises to call them later and drove to my parents' home in the suburbs of Hartford. The modest colonial where I'd grown up hadn't changed much over the decades. Same porch swing, same flowering dogwood in the front yard, same sense of stability I tried to recreate in my own marriage. Mom answered the door before I could knock, as if she'd been watching for me. "Derek, what's wrong, honey?" Elaine Langford had always been able to read me like a book. "Is Dad home?" I asked, stepping into the familiar entryway. "In his study, Derek. You're scaring me." I found my father in his worn leather chair, reading glasses perched on his nose, the crossword puzzle half finished on his lap. Raymond Langford, retired high school principal, a man of few words, but deep wisdom. He took one look at me and set his puzzle aside. "Shannon's been cheating on me," I said without preamble, "for months, probably longer." Mom gasped behind me. Dad's expression didn't change, but his eyes darkened. "I hired a detective. I have proof." Mom sank into the adjacent armchair. "Oh, Derek, are you sure? Maybe there's been some misunderstanding. Maybe this man pursued her, took advantage." "Mom," I cut her off gently. "Shannon wasn't coerced. She was willing, enthusiastic even." I swallowed hard. "And you know what hurts the most? Not even the betrayal. It's the realization that she doesn't see me as worthy of basic respect anymore." Dad nodded slowly. "If respect is gone, everything else is just an act." His simple statement hit the nail on the head. 25 years reduced to performance. "What will you do?" Mom asked, eyes brimming. Before I could answer, my phone rang. Dolores Bennett, Shannon's mother. I showed my parents the screen. I should take this. The conversation was brief. Dolores demanded I come to their house immediately. Her tone suggested Shannon had already called her with a heavily edited version of events. "I'll go," I told my parents after hanging up. They deserved to hear it from me. Dad stood and clasped my shoulder. "Remember who you are, son." The Bennetts lived in a sprawling Tudor in West Hartford's most exclusive neighborhood. Howard had made his fortune in commercial real estate, the connection that had initially brought Shannon into the business. I'd always felt slightly inadequate in their presence, despite my own comfortable salary and professional success. Dolores opened the door with a face like thunder. Howard stood in the background, arms crossed. "What exactly are you accusing our daughter of?" Dolores demanded before I'd even sat down. I remained calm. It's not an accusation when there's proof. Howard stepped forward. "She's having an affair? You have evidence?" I nodded, reaching into my briefcase for a redacted version of the detective's report. "I don't want you to see the photos. They're not something parents should have to see." Howard took the file while Dolores paced. "So because of one mistake, you're going to destroy this entire family," she spat. 25 years of marriage thrown away? Something in me snapped. "You're wrong, Dolores. This wasn't one mistake. This was a series, a system, a repeated choice." I pulled out another sheaf of papers, printouts of text messages between Shannon and her best friend, Lori Whitaker. Shannon's confidant, the instigator. "Read this," I said, handing it to Howard. "See who encouraged your daughter." The messages were damning. Lori describing Travis as a gift to Shannon, praising his sexual prowess, even emphasizing, "Shannon, you'll never forget what it feels like to experience real size." Shannon's reply made me sick all over again. I've never met anyone who makes me think about right and wrong less. I just want more. Dolores's hands trembled as she read over Howard's shoulder. When she finished, she sat heavily on the sofa, suddenly looking her age. Howard shook his head silently, disappointment etched in every line of his face. I stood straightening my jacket. I didn't come here to ask permission for a divorce. I came to inform you out of respect. I've always valued our relationship, but I won't live with someone who no longer sees me as a man. Dolores began to protest, but Howard silenced her with a look. At the door, I turned back. And if Lori contacts me again, I will make every single message public. Not just to you, to the school where she teaches, to her husband's company, to their church. I closed the door behind me without looking back, the spring evening air feeling like the first clean breath I'd taken in months. My phone buzzed again. Shannon for the 100th time today. I declined the call and texted Trina instead. I'll take you up on that lake house offer. As I drove away from the Bennett's neighborhood, I realized something surprising. Beneath the pain and anger, I felt the first flickering of something I hadn't expected. Relief. After leaving the Bennetts, I pulled into an empty church parking lot and sat staring at my phone. There was one more person I needed to see. One more piece to complete this awful puzzle. Monica Ellison, Travis McNeil's wife. The detective's report included details of her routine. Every Saturday morning, she took their 2 young children to Willowbrook Park, where a group of mothers regularly gathered while their kids played. A public place, but with enough privacy for a quiet conversation. I went home first, showered, and changed into casual but presentable clothes, khakis, and a light blue button-down. Nothing threatening, nothing that screamed confrontation. I wasn't looking to cause a scene. I just needed the truth to reach the right ears. Willowbrook Park was bustling with weekend activity. Little league games on the baseball diamonds, teenagers skateboarding, families picnicking. I spotted the mothers' group near the playground. About a dozen women chatting while their children climbed and swung and shouted. Monica was easy to identify from the photos. Petite with auburn hair cut in a practical bob, watching her children with the hyper-vigilance of someone who'd learned not to trust. When she saw me approaching, confusion crossed her face, then recognition, then understanding. The color drained from her cheeks. A tall woman with similar features to Monica stepped between us defensively. "Can I help you?" Her tone made it clear she was offering anything but help. "I need to speak with Monica," I said calmly, privately. "I don't think so," the woman replied, crossing her arms. "Janelle, it's okay." Monica's voice was soft but steady. She looked me directly in the eyes. "You're Shannon's husband." It wasn't a question. "I am Derek Langford. 5 minutes. That's all I'm asking." The woman, Janelle, looked ready to argue, but Monica touched her arm. "It's fine. Watch the boys for me." Monica led me to a wooden picnic table under a maple tree, far enough from the group to be out of earshot. Silent tears tracked down her face, but she made no move to wipe them away. "I have evidence," I said, getting straight to the point. "About Shannon and Travis, I won't go into details, but I need to ask you something. Is this the first time Travis has done this?" Monica let out a bitter laugh. "Third time I know about. After our second child was born, something changed in him. He developed this thing about training women, liked to be the instructor. I was his first student, you know. I hadn't expected such honesty. I'm sorry. I tried to forgive him the first time, tried counseling the second, but this time she shook her head. With your wife, he's gone further than ever before, not even hiding it. He brought her to our house when I was visiting my mother." I swallowed hard, fighting to keep my expression neutral. "I brought you something." I pulled a sealed envelope from my jacket, copies of some of the detective's files. "Don't look at these unless you absolutely need to. Just give them to a lawyer." Monica took the envelope with shaking hands. "Thank you." We sat in silence for a moment. Two strangers connected by the worst possible circumstances. Finally, Monica spoke again. I need a favor. I want to go home and pack some things for a few days away, but Travis might be there. Would you come with me? I hesitated only briefly. Of course. As we walked to our cars, Monica added, My father Warren is waiting near the house, and my cousin Marcus will be at the front door. Just so you know. I followed her SUV through suburban streets to a handsome colonial with immaculate landscaping. Sure enough, a large pickup truck was parked across the street. An older man with a military bearing behind the wheel. A powerfully built man in his 30s stood by the front gate. Travis was mowing the lawn, shirtless in the spring sunshine. When our cars pulled up, he shut off the mower and stalked toward us, face contorted with anger. As Monica got out of her car, Marcus moved to intercept Travis. I stepped out and stood by my door, not advancing but not retreating either. You've been following me, Travis shouted at me, realization dawning on his face. You hired someone to spy on me? I hired someone to watch my wife, I replied evenly. You were just the bonus feature. Travis's face reddened. She came after me, man. I didn't force her to do anything. I felt an unexpected calm. Then, thank you for helping me make up my mind about Shannon. Travis tried to push past Marcus to get to me, but the larger man shoved him back, sending him sprawling onto his perfectly trimmed grass. This is over, Marcus said flatly. Warren had exited his truck now, standing with arms crossed watching the scene unfold. Monica touched my arm. Thank you for coming. You should go now. We can handle the rest. I nodded and turned to leave. Warren intercepted me before I reached my car. You're a decent man, he said, extending his hand. You're not alone in this. Monica could use someone who understands. I shook his hand, feeling a strange kinship with this family of strangers. Take care of her. As I drove away, I caught a glimpse in my rearview mirror. Travis sitting defeated on the lawn. Monica walking into their house with Marcus at her side. Warren standing guard. A tableau of another marriage's implosion mirroring my own. My phone buzzed with a text from Trina. Lake House code is 5280. Keys under planner on back deck. Take all the time you need. It was time to disappear for a while. A week at Cooper Lake had cleared my head. The small cabin perched on the water's edge became my sanctuary. A place to think, to grieve, to heal. No Shannon, no Travis, no drama. Just the rhythmic lap of water against the dock and the occasional call of a loon across the misty morning lake. Then Dolores called. Derek, you promised you'd talk to Shannon once more. She's in a bad way. I had promised, though, reluctantly. I need a few more days, I told her. Of course. Her voice had lost its imperious edge. She'll wait. 3 days later, I called Shannon. Come to the lake house Saturday at noon. We'll talk. Thank you, she whispered. I could hear the relief in her voice. I spent the morning preparing. Not mentally, I knew exactly what I wanted to say, but physically. I set the patio table with 2 place settings, made simple sandwiches, cut up fruit, chilled beer for me, and a bottle of Pinot Grigio for her. This would be civil, adult, final. Shannon arrived exactly at noon, punctual as always. She wore jeans and a simple blue blouse, her hair pulled back in a loose ponytail. She looked exhausted, but beautiful still. The woman who had once been my entire world, now a stranger I knew too well. Nice place, she said, looking around nervously as we sat across from each other on the deck overlooking the lake. I poured her wine, opened my beer. Neither of us touched the food. The silence stretched between us, 25 years of shared history collapsing into an uncomfortable void. Finally, she spoke. I'm terrified, Derek. Terrified of losing everything. Her voice broke. I did something so incredibly stupid. I didn't interrupt, just sipped my beer and waited. It started as curiosity, wanting to feel desired again, like when we were young. She twisted her wedding ring, still wearing it. Then it spiraled out of control. I kept thinking I could stop any time, but then I didn't want to. She looked up, eyes pleading. I'll do anything to rebuild what we had. Any conditions you set, counseling, complete transparency. Just please don't give up on us. I took a long pull from my beer, feeling oddly detached as if watching this scene from above. I can forgive you, Shannon, not for your sake, but for Camille's and Sierra's, for my own. Forgiveness isn't about going back. It's about not carrying hatred forward. Tears spilled down her cheeks. She nodded, understanding at last that this wasn't a negotiation. We're going to divorce, I continued, my voice steady. The lawyers have the paperwork ready. From now until it's finalized, we communicate through them. After that, if there's something important about the girls or finances, you can call, but only then. And us? She whispered. There is no us anymore. There's you and there's me. Two separate people who once shared a life. We sat in silence again, this time more peaceful. Birds called from the trees. A light breeze rippled the lake's surface. Finally, Shannon stood. I never stopped loving you, she said. I just forgot how to show it. I know, it was all I could offer. 7 months later, the divorce was final. I bought the lake house from Trina's family, making it my permanent home. A quiet place with no echoes, no apologies needed. Life went on. Camille graduated with honors and took a job with a defense contractor in Seattle. She called me every Sunday evening without fail. Sierra enrolled at Johns Hopkins Medical School and got engaged to a classmate. A quiet young man who looked at her with genuine adoration. She remained distant with her mother, though I encouraged reconciliation. Shannon started dating again, an accountant, according to Dolores, who had become an unexpected ally. He seems gentle, she told me. Steady. Good, I said, and meant it. Lori Whitaker and her husband Grant left Connecticut after the emails I'd sent found their way to her school administration, his company, and their church community. I wasn't sued. Every word was true. Travis McNeil resigned after being called in by HR. Monica got full custody, sold their house, and moved back to Michigan with her parents. Sometimes I thought about her, hoping she'd found peace. 2 years later, at a graduation party for a mutual friend's son, I ran into Janelle Ellison, Monica's cousin, the protective woman from the park. Derek Langford, she said, smile lines crinkling around her eyes. How are you holding up? We talked like two veterans of the same war, sharing perspectives from opposite sides of the battlefield. Janelle had divorced too, her husband's infidelity coming to light in Monica's aftermath. She carried no bitterness, only caution and a kind of hard-won strength I recognized. One summer afternoon, Janelle appeared at my office door. She knocked, stepped inside, closed the door behind her, and sat on my sofa. Just stopping by, she said with a slight smile. I wasn't the same man I'd been 5 years earlier. More guarded, perhaps, but also more honest. But I was still man enough to recognize that some things worth having come slowly, deliberately, with clear eyes on both sides. This story doesn't end with passionate new love or dramatic declarations. It ends with something better. Peace, self-respect, wholeness, and the quiet understanding that sometimes the best chapters come after you've closed the book on the ones that hurt.